This video is sponsored by TuneTank. Adjusting the correct camera settings can sometimes be a hassle, especially if you're new to photography. In today's adventure, I'm going to discuss how I efficiently modify my camera setup for various situations that I may encounter while photographing the great outdoors. Welcome back. So we're heading to an awesome woodland location this afternoon in hopes of capturing a very intriguing subject. Now, I stumbled upon it completely by accident a few weeks ago while scouting this area, and it's genuinely fascinating. Additionally, I like to share my 3 camera setups that I can quickly adjust for any situation when I'm out shooting landscapes. But I'll dive into that shortly. So let's head on up the trail to reach this incredible spot and see if we can create some amazing autumn photographs. Shall we get on? Come on then, let's go. Good girl. So here we are, we've reached our destination, which is absolutely incredible. An incredible piece of history here. So this is a dolmen. Now, there's not a huge amount of information about this particular one. And like I mentioned before, I stumbled upon it completely by accident when I was scouting this local woodland here. And it's marked on OS maps as a burial chamber. However, there's not a huge amount of evidence to suggest this is definitely what it was. They have found human remains in some of these dolmens throughout Wales, but again, you know, that could have been put there at a later date. We don't really know. This one dates back around 6,000 years, they think. When I approach a new scene I want to capture for the first time, I always take some test shots handheld before setting up my tripod for the final shot. And this allows me to quickly explore and find the best composition. And this brings me to my first camera setup, which I call my scouting setup. Now, many modern cameras offer the ability to set custom settings and save them in your camera menu or on a dial. Now, my camera, for example, has 7 custom slots on the top dial, which enables me to swiftly change my settings as I need to. My first custom setting is my scouting setup and designed for precisely what I'm doing right now, and that's moving around, fine-tuning my shot handheld before I set the tripod up. I've actually saved this to the C7 slot on the top here. And by the way, I shoot in RAW and JPEG for all of these setups. So the save settings are auto white balance, fully manual for the aperture shutter and ISO, and also manual focus. And image stabilization is turned on because we're shooting handheld. And this setup allows me to have full control over the camera's settings for handheld shooting. Now, my other 2 setups are a little more involved, but I'll get onto that in a minute. But I need to get this one framed up before the light fades because time's ticking on. So I've moved around quite a bit, trying to fine-tune the composition handheld. I've ended up swapping over the standard zoom to the 70-300, coming up this embankment quite a bit and taking an elevated perspective looking down on the dolmen, and that's allowed me to eliminate the sky because the sky is quite bright right now and it's very, very difficult to expose for the 2. So yeah, elevation helps with that, I think. So the actual composition that I've got framed up here, there's a couple of, I guess, compromises I've got to make, and that is, it's quite cluttered beyond that. There's some very straight verticals. There's also some deadfall as well, but I'm hoping the autumn colours will just help sort of soften things and make that backdrop kind of uniform, even though it is a little bit chaotic. But I think it is the best shot I can get here in these current conditions. But I'm going to grab one here and then maybe concentrate on some of these woodland beech trees here. Maybe see if I can get a couple of shots of them. Yeah, so get the tripod set up. So before we take the next shot and talk about my next custom setup, I'd just like to take a moment to thank TuneTank for sponsoring this week's video. TuneTank offers creatives a library of exclusive music and sound effects to suit your next project, and their exclusivity takes care of any unexpected copyright claims. Unlike other music sharing platforms that require payment for music usage, TuneTank gives creators the option to choose a free personal plan, and this plan allows us to use quality music for free without any hidden agreements or trials. And this is perfect if you're creating YouTube videos, Instagram Reels or TikToks, as you can download up to 3 tracks every single month completely free, and as you grow as a creator, you can then explore their paid plans which provide unlimited downloads. Searching for music on TuneTank couldn't be easier. For example, select a genre, a mood and a theme and then listen to the provided selection. They have some amazing tunes, so it's well worth signing up to their free plans to download a few tracks and enhance your next project. The link in the description below will take you to the TuneTank website, which also offers you a 20% discount on their paid plans. So once again, a big thanks to TuneTank for supporting the channel and providing awesome music for content creators around the world. So I've got the camera on the tripod now, ready to take the shot, and I've changed my setup from handheld shooting to tripod mode. So one turn of the top dial to my next custom slot changes this setup for me. So it's super quick, super easy. It's very similar to my handheld setup. However, this time I've got a couple of subtle changes that I make to the setup. So as before, auto white balance, manual controls for the shutter speed, ISO and aperture. This time I've got IBIS turned off and also the 2-second timer turned on, which is perfect for tripod shooting. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this shot while we can. And I think I've got the best possible composition I can. But next we're going to talk about a completely different setup that I use for taking photos on the fly. And this is a super important setup that I wouldn't be without, because it just means you can get the shots sometimes, really quickly without having to worry about settings at all. So I've turned my attention to these beech trees here because they're just looking absolutely beautiful. I've got this fallen branch down here in the foreground as well, which I'm using to my advantage. I was trying to eliminate it, but in the end I've decided to include it. And we've got some separation beyond these beech trees. The valley drops away and there's a plantation of pines behind that, or conifer. So I'm using the backdrop as diffusion really, but I'm allowing the shadows to be quite dark in this scene because it accentuates the shape of the trees, which I think works quite well. Again, just elevated helps me eliminate some of that sky, which is quite nice. Focusing on that middle tree there, and my shutter speed is a 1/10 of a second, f8 ISO 125. And grab this one now, and then we'll talk about my third custom setup. Now my third custom setting is designed for quick reactive photography, and this setup is ideal for various subjects such as wildlife, portraits, or anything that requires a swift response, if you like. And it's configured to allow me to quickly take the camera out of the bag, capture an image without having to worry about manual settings at all, which offers me a more automatic approach with also a degree of control. So for this, I've got it set in auto white balance, aperture priority, so I control the aperture, the camera controls the ISO and the shutter speed, and I've got my ISO set to a maximum of 6400 and the shutter speed not to go below 1/200th of a second. And this means if I'm shooting, say, Luna, I should be able to freeze her motion unless she's running really fast. My focus is set to continuous autofocus with face and eye detection turned on. I've also got my drive mode set to continuous low, which shoots 3 frames every second when I'm holding the shutter button down. So if it's a wildlife shot, I can capture multiple shots if needed. Image stabilization is also turned on because I'm shooting handheld most of the time for this. And to adjust my exposure, I just rotate the exposure compensation dial to either brighten or darken my image. It's super simple. I can just quickly grab my camera out the bag, capture an image on the fly without having to worry about settings at all. So I highly recommend, definitely the quick on the fly, take a shot whenever you can mode. So I've spent a fair bit of time looking around this area and it's been quite challenging, to be honest, and I think it's because the light hasn't been that good. However, that's changed. The light's dipping down now and it's becoming a lot more diffused. We're getting a beautiful golden glow, and I found a scene that suits it down to the ground. I'm taking shots because the light keeps changing. I just absolutely love the way this is looking on the back of the camera right now. It's one of those scenes that I wasn't expecting to shoot. I just stumbled across it. So obviously, because I'm on the tripod, I've got it set on my tripod setting, and I'm at f11, 1/6 of a second, ISO 125. Now the reason I'm at f11 is because there's a shrub just on the left hand side that's about 3 meters away from me, not too far at all. And I don't want that to be completely blurred. I want there to be some definition in the leaves there. I'm not too worried if it's a little bit soft. I just don't want blobs of, out of focus leaf material in the foreground really. But looking straight down this embankment here, there's some beautiful tones and colours, absolutely wonderful. These beech trees are looking fantastic. I always like shooting beech trees when the leaves are kind of green, yellow and orange all at the same time. I just think it had such a wonderful colour palette. Got a few splashes of burgundy as well with the leaf litter on the floor and a few dead branches. Absolutely beautiful. Wasn't expecting to capture this evening. My other custom slots are dedicated to video, which I won't go into here, but feel free to drop a comment below, and if you're interested, I'll put them somewhere so I can share them as well. Now, custom setups can really make changing your settings super quick. Now, these obviously setups suit my photography, my style of shooting, which means they might not be right for you, but hopefully this has been helpful. It might, help you if you're setting your custom slots up. So we talked a little bit about tripods today, didn't we, as well? And if you'd like to see how I quickly set up my tripod with little faff, highly recommend checking out the video that's up here. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like. That really does help me out. And if you'd like to support what I do further, then please do consider checking out my zine. It would make a lovely gift, and all of the proceeds help me to create these videos and reach new places. So thanks once again, and I hope to see you all next week.